For our final lab of this semester, we did a beverages lab in which we had to make 6 different types of tea, and these included black tea, green tea, oolong tea, white tea, and then 2 different types of herbal teas. Starting off with the black tea, this one we had to boil a pot of water all the way up to the boiling point, and then on the directions for the black tea that I used, I had to steep it for about 5 minutes to allow the best result. For the flavor of the black tea, I found it to be a very earthy flavor and aroma, and the smell and the taste were hand in hand, basically the same. But I also found it to be the most bitter tea out of all of them. I believe that the black tea was the most bitter because of how many tannins are in this type of tea. Next, we have the green tea. This one didn't have to steep as long, and it was definitely a more mild flavor and smell than the darker teas. And for me, I found that it was very earthy and almost had like a floral smell, but it was very bland and did not have much flavor other than just the earthiness. Next, we have the oolong tea. This tea is very distinct from the rest of the teas. You could tell that the smell was very smooth almost, like it kind of not creamy, but it was just a very smooth smell. And it was also not very bitter. It also had a floral aroma to it. And it also ended up being sweeter than the black tea, but almost to me seemed like a milder version of it. Next, we have the white tea, and it was hard for me to find a regular white tea, so I ended up having to get a peppermint white tea, and you could definitely tell that it had peppermint when you were smelling it. It was very strong, but whenever you actually drank the tea, it was also a very mild flavor, and the smell was stronger than the actual flavor of the tea. Next up, we have the herbal teas, and both of these herbal teas that I chose ended up being a very dark pink color, and I think this is because I chose 2 pretty fruity teas, and they both had a lot stronger of a taste and a smell than the other teas. They were a little bit bitter due to, I think, the amount of berry flavor that was in there compared to just the cup of water, but overall these were my favorite. I think that this lab was very helpful in providing me the knowledge of just how different the different grades of tea can be, and the processing and fermenting really does affect the flavor. Before this lab, I kind of saw all teas to be similar in that I didn't really like them because the ones that I had tried were bitter. But now branching out and trying the different types has really showed me that there is a difference in the type of tea that you get. One last thing that I think is really important to note is the amount of time that you steep the tea, which kind of goes hand in hand with the temperature that you boil your water to. Doing these at the right temperature and time will create the best tea that you can get. If you don't have hot enough water, you're going to not get the full flavor out of the bag of tea. And if your water is too hot, you're going to burn your leaves and burn the tea. And then if you oversteep, it's still going to have a bitter taste because of the amount of tannins that are being released. And if you understeep the tea, it's kind of like not having hot enough water. You just won't get the full flavor.